Military Seahawk Podcast.
So, Bill, I just wanted to say thank you so much for blessing us with your time. I know you are a super busy guy. You're getting pulled in a lot of directions here. And just thank you for coming and blessing us with some of your time.
I appreciate it, Jason. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. So just in case anyone is wondering, Bill is actually the Director of Military Affairs here at UNCW. Bill, how long have you been at UNCW, sir?
Well, when I got out of the Marine Corps in 1996, this was one of the first places I applied to here in Wilmington, and I was fortunate enough to have my first opportunity here. I started out in the Science and Math Education Center as a technical project manager.
Oh, wow.
And so that center was specifically set up to do professional development for K-12 teachers in science and math.
Okay.
So you're not specifically there to teach teachers how to teach, but
Right.
more so that as years go by, sometimes they need to be refreshed on content and so forth. And what better way to do that is to interact with faculty here and have them kind of teach the teachers, and then they would go back and implement what they learned in the classroom setting. So highly fruitful and very rewarding position that I had for about 12 and a half years. And then I decided on a whim to leave the university back in 2008, and I decided to go over to Iraq.
After you were at UNCW, you went to Iraq?
That is correct.
Like as a military? Or?
So my best friend when I was in the military retired out of the Marine Corps, and he was working as a contractor for the Department of the Army, and he had been offered a position over in Iraq to kind of oversee the Armed Contractors Oversight Directorate. And that was kind of right after Blackwater had their incident.
Yeah.
And so that was a very unique position that office was set up to do, and kind of difficult to rein in, 20, 30,000 private security contractors that really didn't have any rules or guidelines governing them.
Oh, yeah.
And so my friend sent me an email and said, hey, send me your resume. And we had talked times before about maybe me going back to the Midwest where I'm from and kind of resettling there. And so I sent him my resume, and about 2 hours later, I'm being interviewed on the phone from a guy in Iraq asking me if I'm willing to take a position as a database manager and slash kind of operations officer. And oh, by the way, you got to leave in 10 days.
Wow.
And so it was a very quick decision. Obviously, I had to consult my family, and and then what's happening with the university. I did a lot of head scratching and
soul
searching. Pull out a sheet of paper, pros and cons, really quickly, because it wasn't a lot of time to make a decision. And to be asked to leave a position you absolutely loved.
Right.
I mean, for 12 years, I really lived, eat, breathed that position, and I was in a very comfortable stage in my life and in the role here at the university. And it was just gratifying to come to work every day knowing that you're making a difference out in the schools, but you get to work with such great faculty and staff. There's always something new and challenging coming about. It was a very comfortable kind of lifestyle. But as you can probably recall, or anyone else that's served in the military, when you get out, sometimes you still have that kind of little scratch in the back of your mind, like, what if I stayed in, or do I still have those skill sets, or what if? And after 12, 13 years. And so I made the decision, and so for 13 months I went over to Iraq to do that particular job, and it was pretty stressful. We did a lot of long days, long nights, and a lot of interface between just about every private security company out there, and there was about 40 of them operating in Iraq from all over the world. Government of Iraq officials you were meeting with every week. Our command structure was our office reported to the G3 of the Multinational Forces for Iraq, which was the senior command element overseeing everything there. And then from General Barbero went straight to General Petraeus, and then straight to Congress. So it was a pretty direct line and so forth. Overall, it was an extremely unique opportunity. It was one where I gained just valuable insights and skill sets that I would have never had if I had stayed here. And it was, at the end of the day, I look back and reflect on, the role that our office played, and we did save a lot of lives at the end. We can document, it was well documented and so forth, and so I felt great about the job and the opportunity that I had, but there were consequences that also came with it. Missing every birthday and every holiday, and just like anyone else that deploys, you miss family and you miss the creature comforts of back home and so forth. And there were some hairy situations over there. Just like anyone else that's ever been in a war-torn areas. You live every day to your fullest and do your best, because there's no guarantee of tomorrow, and it's never more evident than when you're in that kind of environment. So
I remember when I was deployed too. I did a year over in Iraq. Balad, Caldwell. I mean, they were called FOBs.
Sure.
Normandy, Bakuba.
Yes.
Butler Range, which I think is called Fob Hammer or something now. But yeah, I remember when I was over there too, like the thing that would always hurt me the most or make me, I don't want to say hurt, but, get a little emotional a little bit, was when you would miss like Christmases. It'd be Christmas over here, and you're sitting, you may get a chance to hit up an internet cafe or something like that to log on to Facebook or something like that.
Sure.
And you're seeing all of your family back home posting pictures of, the Christmas tree and all that.
It's funny you say that. I started a Facebook account when I was over there, and the first and last post I ever made on Facebook was Christmas Eve.
Wow.
And, I was stuck in my room watching, I think it was the movie Signs with Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
It was like, midnight, and I'm like, well, that's Christmas.
You watch a lot of movies when you're in Iraq.
You do if you have any little bit of downtime, because where else are you going to go?
There's nothing to do.
Yeah.
12-hour shifts probably. I'm not sure if you guys had.
We started out around 15-hour days, usually 15 to 17-hour days, some days, and then it's as we kind of got into the flow of what our office was really doing and really working well hand in hand with all the different entities, whether it was the country managers for each of these companies, government Iraq officials, both in the Strategic Operations Command and so forth. Then you could have a little more set hours, so like 12 on, 12 off, just like any military shift, so to speak.
I got to be honest with you. When I was over there, if you got a chance to be on like Balad or one of the bigger bases, Taji and stuff like that, the defects actually had really good food there.
They did, but you could set the day of the week by the food.
Yeah, surf and turf was Wednesdays.
Yeah. You knew exactly what day of the week it was just by the food they were serving.
Yeah. It was good food though. I mean, they fed you really good over there when you had that opportunity and weren't eating MREs and that type of thing.
People always ask what it was like, and I said it's like going to Golden Corral for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
It really is.
And after a while, it just kind of gets a little old, and you wish you could variance. Have a little variance, but
the defects back home, they're nowhere near as good as those were over there.
Yeah.
So you were in the Marine Corps, Bill. How did Bill get from, let's say high school, or what went on from that process of you wanting to join the Marine Corps?
My father was in the military. My youngest brother was in the military. I had a lot of uncles that served, a lot of neighbors, and difference between kind of today and back when I was growing up, I knew my neighbors had served in the military, but they never talked about it. Because it was World War II or Korea. And so when I got into college, I actually had a part-time job at a medical clinic, and one of the directors there was a former naval intelligence officer, and just had fascinating conversations with him. And after doing a variety of projects and things, he said, you'd make a really good intelligence analyst. And I'm like, well, describe that to me. What's that involved? And as I learned more about that and kind of what I was going to school for, I had designs that one day I'd really thought long and hard. I'd love to work for the DIA or the CIA or one of the other agencies and do that kind of work. And he just kind of made a few other phone calls, and one thing led to another. Next thing you know, I'm in the Marine Corps, and I was an intelligence analyst, and that's kind of where my role was, to brief the general staff, on a weekly basis, along with other folks in our office, on what was happening in certain parts of the world that we were responsible for. So, and it was very interesting work, obviously.
I bet.
Some of it very hectic, and what's what's different about that environment as opposed to a lot of other jobs, just when you're not in the military, is if I didn't like what I was doing, I couldn't just say, well, I'm done, I quit.
Yeah.
Or if you walked in and you screwed up, the general could just say, I don't want him briefing ever again, get him out of here.
Oh, yeah.
And then you know what happens. You get assigned to some,
Yeah.
role that you
Definitely don't like.
definitely don't want. So,
Yeah.
it's a little bit different, a little pressures on you. But so that was just a really unique, challenging role that I had. And I actually turned down an opportunity to go to OCS because at the time I decided that, I just thought maybe it was just the right time to part ways with the military. My wife at the time was, we just had a young child, and she was getting transferred if she decided to accept the position. So I figured she gave up 5 years of her life for what I was doing, and she had a good opportunity. So I said, well, it's maybe time to part ways. And I guess I never had really considered making the military a career and doing a full 20 plus. And so it's obviously worked out. I always kind of chuckle now that I've had such a variety of opportunities, and working in a science and math education center here at UNCW, and then going to Iraq and working something totally different. I came back home and I worked at the community college doing workforce development and running one of the smaller campuses, and then coming back and working in the chancellor's office doing community engagement, and now obviously doing military affairs. Things have kind of come full circle, but it's a great role. I absolutely love it, and I think a lesson learned for a lot of folks is reflect back on all the different things, trainings or roles or positions, jobs, whatever it is that you've had, because it kind of helps mold you for where you want to go or where you end up going.
Oh, yeah.
And I never saw myself working in this capacity here at UNCW because, for one, that office has never existed until 3 years ago. But
is that when you became the director?
So 3 years ago, right after the Chancellor Sauterelli came to UNCW, he looked long and hard at, we're close proximity to two of the largest military installations in the world, and what are we doing for the military? Well, the university had been doing a lot for the military, but it had been kind of siloed out, kind of,
Yeah.
And so maybe we should have an office that kind of, oversees a lot of this and collaborates and just kind of brings all of the entities together and see if we're a little more effective in that route. And so I happened to be approached by the chancellor and asked if I was interested, and right away I said yes. And the only hard part was when you become a director of a brand new office, I didn't have an office location, I didn't have any staff, and I didn't have a budget. So what are you going to do, and how are you going to do it? And oh, by the way, in a few weeks, you get to brief the Board of Trustees on what this new office is going to do and so forth. So it was a little hair-raising at first. And, and so I solicited a lot of input from, folks that have been here for a while and really understood, the picture of the university and some of the strategic, efforts that were currently happening and what was, going to be projected down the road. And so I came up with 5 real specific areas, no one more important than the other, but they're all interrelated. And part of the charge from the chancellor was we need to be doing more for our military community, and we need to bring in more military affiliated students and help them go through this education process, because at the end of the day, the more education you have, it opens a lot more doors and really sets you up for long-term success.
Was there like a big military presence already on campus? I mean, I've been here for the last 2.5 years, and I'll be honest with you, I was surprised how many military veterans that were here, and obviously the camaraderie. Veterans are always going to have that camaraderie with each other, but being at other schools, I did an internship over the summer at Cape Fear Community College. To be honest with you, the veteran community was kind of small there.
And it's set up a much different structure than here, so
completely
it's
different.
more transient and so forth. But
and I was at Central Piedmont Community College. I got an associate's degree over there, and there is a lot of veterans, but it's not like here. Here, it's packaged so much better. There's so many more resources here for veterans here. I was kind of taken back. So, I mean, you've been doing some great work.
Well, you know, we've, like I said, you know, in the past, we've always had certain things here. And I remember when we first had the first kind of dedicated space for military, which was on the second floor in Fisher Student Center. And
that's where the lounge
that's
was
where
before?
the first lounge. And when that area kind of kept getting crowded, but it had no specific doors or anything else, it was just kind of open to the public. It made it a little difficult to do some things there. And when they were looking for space on campus, you know, there was a faculty kind of lounge, so to speak, that was in Warwick, where currently the Military Resource Center is. And they decided that, you know, yeah, we'll give up that space. And so Student Affairs did an amazing job in creating that space. And, you know, they really set the bar for our office to kind of move in and then kind of take it to the next level. So I'm so thankful for what Vice Chancellor Leonard and, you know, Stephanie Ganser and so many others within Student Affairs kind of did to set the stage for, you know, the success that we seem to have right now.
Right.
Tracking of military students has always been a difficult thing here. And so we knew we had students here. We just didn't really know how many.
Right.
So that opportunity to kind of figure that whole process out is becoming a lot easier to do. And I think once you kind of know what your population is and where you would like it to go, that drives a lot of the other things. So going back to those kind of 5 core domains that I was looking at, was I understood the Chancellor wanted us to grow our population. But for me, I had always thought, first and foremost, before I can think about bringing in more students, what are we currently doing for the ones we have?
Right.
And to me, that would be a disservice to our current students if we're not figuring out the correct resources and support that we need for them, and then just bring in more, and you just keep bringing in more. So it was kind of a hand in hand. So we, you know, look at trying to bring in more, but continue to figure out those, you know, student services and support services that are in place. And you know, the other thing is, what degree programs, what areas of interest and need is there by the military, and how do we meet that? Right. So, you know, talking to academic, you know, units on campus and talking to the military, hey, where's your need or interest, and how can we meet that? That's going to help, you know, drive part of where our success has been in bringing in more students. And so, if you're trying to bring in more, you have to go through recruitment efforts, which is another domain. But in order to recruit, you got to have programs and things to recruit that are also based upon what are the support mechanisms in place. So, you know, you hit your third domain. And, you know, the other sometimes forgotten piece is the critical importance faculty play, not in the classroom so much, but also in the research and training area.
Okay.
Such great expertise here, and such great willingness upon our faculty to find ways that they can do research and make life either easier, improve the quality, or solve certain problems that the military has. And so that has been really, really exciting on my end, is to, you know, kind of go back to what I was first doing when I arrived here and working with faculty on contracts and grants and figuring out how can we, you know, bring in some of these, but also how does it make a difference in the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
And so that has been really exciting. Hopefully we continue going down that path and get some large-scale ones to come in here soon, which will be exciting for everybody. And then kind of the last portion, which, you know, when you're an office of 1 and then office of 2 or 3, is figuring out those scholarship resources for our students. You know, that's such a misnomer, I think, for those that don't understand the GI Bill or how our military pay for school. And no, the GI Bill or voc rehab does not cover everything. And so finding ways that we can bring in extra monies and scholarships to support those, you know, other costs, and work hard to make sure that, you know, you've got what you need to stay in school. Because unlike, you know, our traditional students, you know, a lot of them living in the dorms, whatever, most of them aren't married or don't have a family, are commuting from long distances each and every day. And, you know, after a while, that, you know, life outside the campus, it has its challenges and, you know, costs associated with that. So the more I can, you know, look at partnering with our university advancement and other entities to bring in scholarship monies, to me that's critical to keeping our students, you know, in school, and ultimately walking across that stage and then moving on to the next facet of their life.
Man, that's, you know, there's a lot of things that, you know, you don't hear from veterans, or that doesn't get talked about. And, you know, and a lot of these people are making a career change when they come here.
Yes.
You know, I mean, they're not 18 years old, you know, just leaving mom and dad's house, you know, never, you know, they've had so much more experiences, acquired a lot more debt, you know, just they're in full adulthood at this point, you know,
Exactly.
families, got kids to support, you know, so thank God that GI Bill does exist, you know.
It has been so helpful, and you know, it's also good to see that, you know, there's a forever GI Bill. So, you know, as with anything, life happens sometimes, and sometimes you do have to drop out of school for a semester or for a year, but knowing that you still have those benefits available to use to hopefully complete your degree or an advanced degree is so critical.
I mean, the GI Bill, it's not gonna, you know, you're not just showering in money from it.
Right.
You know, a lot of people like to think that. You're definitely not doing that. I mean, I'm in probably my 4th or 5th year of school. I had to actually take breaks off myself to go work and make some money because, you know, you get what, about $1,400 to $1,500 for your GI Bill, you know, depending on location, and, you know, after rent, you know, whatever, it doesn't go very far.
Right.
Let's just be honest.
And if you have a family,
Yeah,
you know, that's even more so.
yeah, I mean, it's tough. You know, it's definitely tough. So like I said, thank God those exist. Thank God we have, you know, people like you that always trying to find more resources for us to help us, and, you know, just kind of creating helping us be more successful as students.
Well,
you know?
and you know, that's really a true treasure and benefit of working at a university, especially UNCW, where we are really somewhat unique here. And you know, you can say that, you know, thanks to me. Well, it's not me. It's the collective efforts of everyone here on campus. There are so many people in other departments and sections that are really in tune to providing that extra, you know, amount of service and effort to help those that served in the military, and kind of feel like, well, this is my way to pay them back for what they've done and the sacrifices that they have made. And so to go around campus and you know, talk with so many that are, believe it or not, tied to the military. And that's, you know, one of the things that our office is really trying to tease out with our faculty and staff is we know there's even more than what we currently are aware of that are really tied to the military. And, you know, it's kind of one of those things, if you were to ask anyone, who in your family, you know, an extended family has served in the military, I'm sure you're going to find somebody along those family
My dad
lines.
was in the military.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you put it in those contexts, and you know, it pretty much touches pretty much everybody in some way, shape, or form, which is great.
Yeah. So I got to ask you.
Sure.
I know we only have so much time with you. So again, thank you for, you know, spending some time with us. How was your time with the General? Which we're blessed to have a podcast with him. It should be up on iTunes soon.
I tell you, General Bullock and his wife Sharon and Victor, his service dog, were
incredible people.
Just and you know, to see them also trying to figure this out and how to make that transition back to, you know, regular life, if there is such a thing, for those that have done 35 plus years in the military. You know, I think he had mentioned he had moved or relocated 30 times in 35 years. You know, that's you know, that's not easy. And when you move those times, it's not just, you know, moving from North Carolina to South Carolina. It's a lot of times across the world. And in fact, I believe he and Sharon got out straight from Germany. So trying to figure out, when you're in a foreign country, all right, where's all of my belongings going? What am I doing after this? How am I?
It's almost like life on the road, you know?
It is. And, you know, I'm thankful for the opportunity that, you know, he agreed to come to campus and interact with our students and faculty and staff, and, you know, learn a little bit more about him and, you know, this amazing life that he's lived. And, you know, how do you quantify in 36 years things that he has done, you know, and especially in a kind of a special operations format where he was gone doing things and back home and you never even heard of it.
Yeah.
For how many iterations of that? And, you know, how does Sharon, his wife, you know, quantify the amount of times that she was now responsible for all the other military spouses that were all in the same boat? Well, is my husband coming home?
Yeah.
Is my wife coming home? I have no idea what's it going to be like. What do we do? That's a hard life, and for the sacrifices that they've endured, and for their children to go through.
Oh yeah.
Not to mention personally what he suffered with PTS and traumatic brain injuries and so forth, and trying to figure all that out. I felt like a sponge just sitting there at lunch and dinner with him, and just listening to him talk, and it's just amazing. And part of the kind of mini regret that I have in bringing him here is that I wish more of the campus would have been able to kind of interact with him and then hear him speak, because I think a lot of them would have had a much deeper appreciation for those folks, but also to understand this PTS TBI world, that it's not a disease.
No.
It's not a disorder. It's just having a reaction to an abnormal experience.
Well, it's kind of like he was saying. I mean, when he was doing his speech or his presentation, great presentation, great information that came out from that too. He was talking about how do you program someone to be in a wartime area where they have to be so on guard at all times. I mean, the things that you're seeing over there, and it's almost unexplainable, and then you have to come over here and almost pretend that you haven't just gone through all that. You know what I mean? You can't just turn that switch on and off like that. I mean, there is a transition period, and things get better, but I mean, we're human, we're not robots.
Exactly.
I mean, it's
a gratifying part of that whole experience of having General Bullock here was, at dinner, as we were kind of wrapping up and I was getting ready to take him back to where he was staying, he said, I had a huge success today in not telling my story, but knowing that afterwards I had 2 prior service members come up to me and say, because of hearing you speak, I'm now going to go and get the help I need. And it's been 9 years, it's been 7 years. And to hear that and know that you've had an impact on somebody that is now willing to go get the help they need.
Oh yeah.
Which is, or anyone in this particular, environment, that sometimes that's the hardest thing, is just accepting that you need help and then going and finding the help.
And, he spoke on it too, and you know this too, Bill. The military has a culture of like drive on, kind of,
exactly.
You're hurt, don't complain,
Suck it up, move on. And
exactly. You know what I mean? And it's when you get out, you can't be like that. Don't be like that. Get the help you need. Your family needs it. The people around you need it. You need
Most
it.
definitely.
So I mean, thank God he was here to talk about that.
And I'd like to, and he's very amenable to come back to campus probably again in the fall. And so, if timing is right, I would love to bring him back and kind of coordinate well in advance, and have quite a few classes and things that are kind of trying to understand that world, or working in that capacity to figure out, here's a great resource.
Right.
Here's somebody that actually is not just, talked it, has walked that life for how long, and is now showing a lot of signs of success and normalcy. And, people that have a traumatic brain injury or have some type of post-traumatic stress are not limited to the military. I mean, it can be from lots of different things that have happened, and how you approach it and the help you seek is, can make a big difference.
Absolutely. Let's transition to a different topic, by the way. We do have our official military baseball game coming up.
That's correct.
I think it's probably phrased a little different than that, but there's a baseball game this Sunday, which will be the
31st.
31st.
That is correct.
So, Military Appreciation Day.
So each year, the athletics department, they've been just truly wonderful in trying to support those that have served. And so each year during basketball season, they set aside a basketball game for the military, and then obviously for baseball season and softball, they do the same thing. And so, as you said, this Sunday, the March 31st, will be a military appreciation baseball game. So great opportunity for anyone military affiliated to come for free and just take part in a great, American tradition, going to a baseball game. And it just so happens that, we'll have a kind of a pregame social for anyone in the military to kind of, just thank them for all the things that they have done over the years, and, enjoy each other's camaraderie, network a little bit, laugh, and talk about a few things. But also, support our UNCW baseball team and Coach Scaff, who's in his 28th and kind of final season this year.
This is his final season?
This is his final season. He's been just an amazing coach here, amazing teacher, and somebody who has great respect for the military and has really supported them over the years. I had the chance last August to take a group of folks with our office up to Camp Lejeune for kind of a retreat all day, and Coach Scaff immediately said, "Hey, can I go on this?" And most definitely, and to see the questions and what he's asked and who he talked to, and you just see all the folks that were part of that retreat, and what they came away with was such a much deeper understanding and appreciation for those that serve. And so, being out there to kind of support Coach Scaff and the team, and have a few unique things that are going on with, a large U.S. flag that we'll kind of present on the field beforehand. We're going to have a drone flying overhead that is going to take video capture of all of that and the first pitch and everything else. I think
that's awesome.
Be a fun activity. And the other thing that goes along with the military appreciation game is every year athletics usually works with like Step Up for Soldiers or another entity in town. And
what is Step Up for Soldiers?
So Step Up for Soldiers is another nonprofit here that just works in a variety of capacities to support those that have served. So whether you need some type of handicap access ramp at your house because you're not able to just go up and down the steps, or to raise money to build a house for a deserving family. And one of the first homes that they built a couple years ago, the first occupants of it were a UNCW student and his wife and child, and so they got to use the house for as long as they were in school, and didn't pay hardly anything for the rent on that, which was absolutely wonderful.
That's awesome.
So they do a lot of things out in the community to really support those that have served, and so the baseball team will be wearing camouflage uniforms, and for each player that's out there on the team, people will have a chance to bid on that particular uniform, and obviously the highest bid will yield you that uniform, and the monies raised will go to Step Up for Soldiers to, again, make an impact out in the community. So.
Great. And guys, if you see Coach Gaff on campus, be sure to just walk up, shake his hand. The man gave 28 years of his life to UNCW and to countless players. He's changed a lot of lives. So, definitely
has.
Yeah, show the man respect, give him a hug. Just 28 years is a long time.
28 years, yeah, it is. And he played here as well back in his collegiate days.
Wow.
So, yeah, he's just a true gem, and, he's cut from a different mold, and one that, does things the right way. And, I think if you were to ask all the players over all the years, and, many that have made it onto the major leagues, they would have just, an amazing recollection of their time spent here, but, obviously owe what they have to, practices and the guidance that Coach Gaff, provided over all those years. So,
well, Bill, thank you for your time. You're one of the most beloved people here at UNCW. Just thank you so much for everything that you do.
Well, I appreciate that, Jason.
My pleasure. And maybe we can get you back on sometime. I know you're a busy man. You're getting pulled in a lot of different directions.
I look forward to that, and hopefully you'll have a few other individuals to kind of round out your podcast sessions. But this has been great, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you.